So thank you everybody, we'll start. Welcome, thank you for coming. I know that if there is a fire or another emergency, you will all be aware that we need to leave through that exit, and I have to ask if anyone is going to film or record the proceedings apart from the official one. Thank you. May I welcome Roy Wade as the local. Thank you. Clark, while Jill is away.
Evening. I've been here before.
And ask for any apologies for absence.
We've got apologies from Councillor Mrs Page, Laura Bungard, Councillors Messenger and Banbury.
We have the minutes of, first of all, the extraordinary meeting on the 27th of November to approve. We should all have received these. Are there any comments or objections? Anyone like to propose that we adopt them? Councillor Matthew Scott. Councillor Walker seconding. All those in favour? Against? Abstain? Thank you. We then have the minutes of the finance and general purposes which preceded it. Oh no, we have, sorry. 16th of October for finance and general purposes to receive. Have you seen that? Can we propose to receive them? Thank you, Councillor. Second, Councillor Rolfe. In favour? Thank you. And the minutes of the Events and Tourism Committee on the 23rd of October. Reactions? Anyone like to propose them? Propose them? Councillor, second? Yep. The reason I went up first, I think it was Councillor Myers. In favour? All those in favour? Thank you. Have any members any interest that they should disclose on the points in the agenda? I see no indication of that. Report of the committee warden. I think she sent a report in. I invite the clerks to read it.
Untaxed vehicles reported as and when I come across them. Please note TDC will only consider a vehicle is abandoned if it has no road tax. I report all untaxed vehicles to the DVLA. They then come round and clamp them and remove them. All vehicles that are MOT are reported to the police. They for the most part remain where they stand. The vehicles that either have no MOT or are no MOT or tax are risking voiding their insurance, as they have to be both taxed and MOT to be insured. Drains blocked with compacted earth continue to be a huge problem, particularly with all the rain of late. I'll continue to report and chase them in case CC is approved. More complaints regarding safety at the crossing by Doctors in Westgate Bay Avenue. I continue to bring this to KCC's notice. Potholes, except reported as and when required. If anyone has concerns about a neighbourhood friend who is elderly or vulnerable, please do not hesitate to get in touch. I'm sure we all know someone who now is getting colder. We don't see as much of them. Don't be afraid to ask when you see them. Is your central heating working okay? Do you need someone to assist you with your shopping? Or would you like a visit from a befriending service or care navigator who can refer to all sorts of different services? Residents are notorious for not asking for help. Please contact me, let me know who these people are. If they are concerned, I'm happy to visit and call and to see if we can help in any way. I'm always delicate in an opening conversation, and people are often pleased that a neighbour has thought to contact me when they decline help at that current time. There will always be residents who refuse help, but I leave my contact details with them so that they may change their minds, they can call me. I'm happy for you to give my details over to anyone that you may be concerned about. May I take this opportunity to wish everyone a happy holiday, whether they celebrate Christmas or not, and to thank fellow workers, councillors, friends and residents for their help and their approach.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we'll all take those messages to heart. I really think it's important. Especially important this time of year when partly when it's cold, partly because people may feel lonely, but neighbours look after them and that they know they have someone they can call on if they need to. We have no county or Thanet district councillors here. Councillor Cornford.
I just wanted to ask, I should have looked, but I haven't. Is Laura's number in the, is Laura Bungard's number in the box, in the town council notice board?
I'm almost certain. I'll check tomorrow, but I think it is.
It is.
I think, I will check, but I think,
If it isn't, can we advertise it there?
yeah, sure.
Thank you. Well, as I say, we have no county or district councillors here again on our meeting. Public right to speak. I understand no one has asked for the floor. So, Chairman's report. On 14th of November, together with Councillor Nicolette and the Clerk, I met with the Director of South Eastern Rail and his head of estates to discuss the situation with Westgate Railway Station. It was a timely meeting since a new franchise is planned from June 2019 and the decision on the award of the franchise should be taken this January. The visitors had a good look at the station before the meeting, which we hope will lead to tidying up the weeds and better litter bins, which would be a start. Our station is amongst the lowest 10 to 15% in terms of usage in the South East area, and we discussed various ideas for making the station more attractive, including the use of the waiting room. We agreed to hold such meetings on a regular basis. We have received a letter concerning the neighbourhood plan of Broadstairs and St Peters, which is now available for consultation. TDC opened this consultation, at least wrote to us on the 23rd of November and confirmed that the neighbourhood plan had followed the necessary procedures. It's open for consultation in Broadstairs Town Council and Broadstairs Library, and the closing date is the 18th of January. We produced a newsletter. We are still experimenting with ways of preparing, printing and distributing the newsletter, and I'm grateful to those councillors who have given a hand in pushing it through the letterboxes. I must say, I think it's a useful opportunity to talk to people, and they're impressed when they realise that we save them money by delivering it ourselves. Last week, a car crashed into the gates of the allotments in Lymington Road and caused substantial damage. We are seeking estimates for the repair of the gates and adjacent fencing. It's not clear whether this can be covered by insurance at the present time. Christmas trees and lights are now up on both Station Road and Lymington Road. The Christmas fair in Station Road on Sunday seemed very successful. I spoke to several of the visitors and stall holders, and their feedback was very positive. I'm sure you would wish to join me in thanking Jeanette Bell and her team for all their efforts in delivering such a glittering event. Thank you. Any questions?
Can I ask something about the what the railway body said about the usage of the station? How do they measure the footfall from that when there's no one selling tickets and no one's there on Saturday or Sunday, and nobody's there only between the hours of 6 and 11 in the day?
So I've put that onto the list for the next meeting, which is in January, because when I took the figures away and worked out the daily average, it meant that we had 403 passengers getting on a train at Westgate on Sea, which seems very strange. So we have another meeting on the 16th of January where they're coming back, and I put that on my list to clarify how they measure the passengers, because I think that the number just doesn't stack up.
No, and if they're using it on tickets that are issued, sorry, by the chair. I mean, if you've ever travelled up to London, which I was doing a few weeks ago, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, getting the train up, there must have been 130 young people on the opposite platform who'd come out of the schools who are going to rent. So, I mean, it just doesn't weigh up at all.
Okay. Councillor O'Connor?
Sorry, this wasn't about the trains, I just wanted to say about the allotments. The gates are...
Oh, I see, yeah.
Now that you can use the gates now, so that they've done some sort of bits in there, so it's, people are able to get into the allotment now.
Can I just comment? The insurance, can't the council claim against the vehicles of the car, the owner of the vehicle insurance?
I
Yes,
think
sir.
Jill
Have you
has,
looked at that?
I think Jill has traced it, because originally they were looking for people to find out what had happened. I think they've now traced the vehicle, so I think Jill is looking at it, but I don't know how far she's going to do it.
Thank you. Finance reports.
Chair,
Yes, Councillor King.
can I ask if there's been any progress on the meeting with Margate Civics this time?
No, as I reported before, they had come back to us with questions about what was the motive behind our request for a meeting. We explained that very clearly. They don't seem willing to hold a meeting without further discussions. I have tried without success over the last couple of weeks to contact their secretary, and I will now try and contact the chair, because it's not acceptable that they simply ignore us. Thank you. Finance reports. On the Councillor O'Connor.
So Jill's asked me if I take the lead on this, so if there's any questions, perhaps this one could be interesting for me. Obviously, we've got the first report, which is about bank reconciliation. That was shows what the holding my personal account record and our current account, and any other surplus cash, and how that's made up at the moment. And then we've got the budget versus expenditure report. That's showing that this year-to-date at the moment we're about 7,000 underspent from what we've got in, what we've had in against our budget. There will be things in the pipeline because we only work on, we don't work on an accrual basis, so it's on an actual basis of what comes into the bank and what hits the bank account at the time, as per the auditor. And we do our forecast report, which is estimating that we're hopefully coming in at 5,000 pounds, which is a contingency that would be moved into the reserves. If that happens at the end of the year. So if everything goes well, plan we have got that and our contingency we can use to support the reserves, which will continue from our getting on the reserve side. Is there any questions on any of the lines? Anybody else?
No? Okay, thank you very much. Can I take it that those are received? We've got the proposal received, Councillor Comfort. Seconded by Councillor McIntyre. All those in favour? Agreed. Thank you. Against? Planning applications. I don't know if anybody's been able to look at these in detail. I must understand that I must admit I didn't really quite understand the first one in relation to the not, but I gather it's a minor change to the existing application. Is that correct interpretation? Councillor Nightingale, this is your backyard.
No, I was going to raise the same because it's a sort of retrospective change, isn't it? So
Yes.
I presume it's already been done then. And then well, it'd be interesting to know because there was a query when it first came up about the lack of car parking spaces, wasn't there? And that's why it was rejected originally by TDC as well. So, okay. I mean, I don't know what this small change is, though, but it'd be interesting to know.
Well, Councillor Crawford?
There have been 3 applications with this, starting in 2016. There are objections from residents and police and CAG. At the moment, CAG are saying the further 2 flats are contradictory to the original consent given. And also, apparently, the freehold for the site specifies there has to be a hostelry there. And CAG are also against not having a hostelry, i.e. a micro pub, because of the community aspect of it. And also a micro brewery or a micro pub would provide more, make the area more desirable. Provide not competition, but it would be an asset to the existing Millie's bar on the seafront, because people have more of a choice. There's not just one place,
Yeah.
there's somewhere else. But there is this codicil in the original freehold, which has been disregarded, and CAG say, actually they use the word disregard by the developers, ignoring the planning regulations prior to carrying out the work. So as Councillor Nightingale said, this is retrospective. They've done the work, but they've ignored the planners, and they've also ignored the codicil on the freehold. So I don't quite know. I mean, they've just completely walked all over everybody. And the police say, as far as crime prevention is concerned, the windows, the height of the windows is an issue, and the allocated parking is insufficient.
Anybody feel we should get this called in? If we had a councillor here, we could have a dialogue on that. Councillor Scott?
Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe we should get this called in, because one of the reasons why we were, not so unhappy about this change from public house to the flats was the fact that they had the microbrewery included. So if now they haven't, then
No.
that flies sort of in the face of us agreeing in
Yeah.
the first place. So there's no community asset included.
Yeah. Councillor O'Connor?
I'm just finding that this seems to be a way around to get planning permission. They're just constantly doing these retrospectives.
Yeah, exactly.
Or changing the planning. And it seems to be almost everything that goes in nowadays. They put in and then they ask for something because it can get passed easier as a change. And this one doesn't feel acceptable, I don't think.
Has permission been granted for this?
Not yet.
Because if it's part retrospective, I mean, it's been going on for a long time down there.
Yes.
It's been going on for a long time down there.
Well, that's why we were saying it's rather, it subverts the whole procedure if you ask permission.
What I'm trying to get at is if it's already got planning permission and they've come back for a retrospective change from what they originally put in,
Yeah.
I don't know whether you could call it in. That's what I'm trying to get at.
I don't know the
Well-
details of this application, but
Hmm?
I don't know the details of this, but often on retrospective
Well, if you're going on
applications.
so long, no, well, I've lost track. I know when it started off, it was proposed to be, part of it will be retained as a micro pub, because it is originally a pub. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the rest of this will be then converted to different various flats, etc., etc. I don't know whether that has actually been passed or been granted, and now they've come back for a retrospective change, because this, I mean, obviously this is the old, they do it time and time again. They get planning permission for 3 floors, and then they come back with a retrospective planning permission for an extra floor.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is the planning permission has already been granted for the actual application.
It was, yes, in 2016.
So can we actually then have a chance of calling it in, is what I'm asking Mr. Wade, if he knows what the position is.
Well, what I imagine has happened is that they've undertaken work for which they didn't get approval. The district council have now picked it up and have required them to submit an application for that. One of the reasons why they often do this is because it avoids fees
Yeah.
so high.
Councillor-
Can I just mention on the codicil, although that's really for the freehold, it's not a planning ground that the district council will take into regard, have regard to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can draw their attention to it, but as I say, it isn't strictly a planning ground.
Councillor O'Connor?
I do believe that if it isn't being passed, they can tell them to take it back down
Yeah,
again if
they
they want to do it, so,
Yeah. Well, maybe we can suggest to our councillors and TDC that they put in,
yeah.
we have a closer look at it, because, I mean, I gather that some is quiet about 2 things. One is the substance, which is that we think it would be helpful to have some sort of hostelry function. And the second is that the planning procedure itself is being subverted.
Yeah, which I think,
Okay, can we do that?
yeah. Can I just start, do you call them in via your district members or do you do it yourselves?
No, just try.
District members?
Yeah, I mean, if it's subject, sorry, through the chair, if it's subject to being called in, then sure, then yeah, we'd go for our district, we go probably go for our ward councillors, ask them to call it in. You still have to have a good reason for why you want them to call it in.
Yeah, but we can record.
And it has to be a planning, it has to be a planning reason, not like,
Yeah.
whatever. But I wouldn't hold your breath on it. I mean, I've seen it so many times before, to see planners put an application in and then build completely outside the consent that they've been given.
Yeah.
And I've even actually seen, I was sitting on the planning committee one night in the district, and they actually ordered the constructors to take it down.
Yeah.
And it never got done. Within a week, the officers have gone in with the applicants and they've cobbled up the deal, and that was it. And that was even under a vote of the planning committee. They never got moved there. I was not proud.
Well, we can at least do our best. Councillor Cornford?
How should we word our response in support of, against,
Well,
being against it, as it is still a proposal?
Suggested something that we object, firstly on the grounds that we think that the original application provided for a hostelry, which we support, and secondly, that we consider that the retrospective, this is a subversion of the planning procedure. Is that?
Can we cite the comments by the police and CAG?
Right.
Conservation Advisory Group?
Yes.
And the public feeling that there should be an alternative to Millie's. It's part of the original, having a microbrewery there is part of the original application.
Yes.
That's why it was granted. They stealthily removed that.
Councillor Scott?
No, it's right.
Okay, can we move on to Dudley House? Seems okay to me. I don't know if there was a neighbour's objection. Yes, Councillor Cornford.
There were no objections to this. That's
Okay.
I think
So that's okay.
perfectly acceptable.
birds of a feather on Cuthbert Road. Just looking, Councillor Norfolk, Councillor.
I think, Chair, that this proposal is there, it's already up and working as a complementary health clinic.
Yeah.
It's been on for a number of weeks.
Okay, Councillor Crawford.
I didn't hear what Councillor Ross said.
That it's already been changed to the health clinic.
There were no objections to it.
No, okay.
That's the only comment I made.
That's fine. And lastly, what seems a straightforward application for Canterbury Road to replace existing wooden sash windows with new sash windows. Yes.
No objections.
Yeah.
And it would do the building good, because at the moment there are windows in there, and it's causing deterioration of the interior.
Good. Well, you will note the decided applications which are listed out to that. For no reactions, we move to point 10, which is related to something we talked about in the budget context, which is how the council increases its income from a variety of sources, including revenue streams and sponsorship. You will have seen the paper from Councillor Nicola. If you'd like to.
Yeah, so I'm not going to read the document because obviously it's a very long document which everyone would expect from me. But for the sake of both public and for video, just to give you an overview, I want to propose that we look at creating a dedicated council role that covers sponsorship, PR and marketing, and research for new initiatives for the town. So obviously I've been a councillor for a short period of time, and I'm still learning. But I've always said since day one that I'm out of the box thinker. So there is a lot of committees, a lot of working groups, and a lot of people doing a lot of things, and everybody's very busy, full-time jobs. This is a voluntary role. However, budgets are stretched to the limit. We had the extraordinary meeting and we agreed that it was unfair to increase the budget and affecting our constituents. So we're left with a problem whereby we have great intentions, there's a lot that we want to do, but we have no way of doing it. So I decided to basically take a step back and think out of the box as how we can basically achieve more. So I'm proposing this role that would have a dedicated councillor to be decided that would take the initiative of doing marketing for the town, so basically doing all the things that we want to do, creating websites, getting magazine articles, driving tourism, etc. to the town, but also looking at the PR, so releasing press releases. So when we make big decisions such as the A&E letter, we actually turn that into a press release and we chase the press to cover it. But also within the role, we have a lot of new initiatives that we want to do, so things like Twinning the Town. That takes a lot of research and a lot of time and effort. And so where we sit and go, can we research that? Sometimes it will take months for that to happen. And sometimes from the working groups or the committees, we talk about the same thing time and time again. And because people are strapped for time, things take a lot of time to do. And then finally on the sponsorship, we individually, for everything that we do, we kind of go to the same people time and time again. And we probably only get £500 a time, a couple of £100 a time. So my proposal is that we actually come up with a sponsorship system whereby we can go to companies and basically go, give us money for a year, and within that you will get this. This would mean that we can actually bring in large amounts of sum at the beginning of the year rather than little bits and pieces throughout the year. My proposal on that money is that that money kind of sits separately, and we have a new group that is part councillors, part member of the public, people that want to dip into the money for initiatives, whether it be councillors or anybody else, put in an application. And then that way, people are actually deciding where the money's going.
Floor is open.
I think he called us.
Well, that would be very happy with having a finished meeting.
In that case, I'll cover it. You say that there will be a separate committee for sponsorship, or are you proposing that there will be this committee? I would imagine that some sponsors would be particularly concerned to support certain activities, but not necessarily others. But a sponsorship committee would mean that you have to publicise all the sponsors every time you did something, presumably. Is that correct?
No, so I'll take your question in turns. So the idea is that you go to the company, so this is what we used to do. We used to go to sponsors and basically say, it's all in my past career.
Yeah.
So you would take a proposal of certain categories of sponsorship.
Yeah.
Under that, if you were the tier 1 main sponsor, which would be a large sum of money, they're guaranteed to be covered in any event, any marketing, any promotion that we did, because they're the key sponsor. Within the tier, so if you're a bottom tier sponsor, you're pretty much getting an advert in the newsletter or any other publications we do, on our new website, etc, etc. So there's definite tiers that they know what they're signing up to. But the idea is these people get hit once a year and by one person. The idea of segregating the money is that I feel that if we add the money into our normal budget, then that money is going to basically not be used to the maximum. And I believe that by doing the sponsorship and bringing in a large sum and having both councillors and members of the public involved, then we get a fair spread of the money, and actually the money will go further, so we'll be able to do initiatives from the public as well as our own initiatives. So that's why I'm suggesting that we set up a separate committee.
Yes, Councillor Moore.
Before we go any further, I think we need somebody to lead that committee. I'd like to propose Councillor as the person to lead the committee, designated sponsorship, incoming, whatever you want to call it.
to respond to Councillor Roth, I do think it's really important that whoever does this role, because we have to have nominations for the role, and obviously I'm going to pitch myself, but I do think it's very important that whoever's doing the role does actually be part of a committee, because that person's going to know the nitty-gritty of the sponsors themselves. So it is important that you have the right person on that committee.
Councillor Matthews got one.
John McGarn, that's sort of wishing to second Councillor Roth's proposal there. I mean, obviously, I've had a quick read through and also on the via the email, and you've put a good case forward. You planned it all out. So, I mean, it would be, in my opinion, foolish to allow someone else to take on something you've already put work into. I'd happily be a supporting member, but I feel that what you put forward is something that I would greatly support. So, second in there.
Okay, Councillor Martin now.
Yeah, I think we do need, in terms of the sponsorship, I think we do need to be ethically aware of who we're asking for, and I think that's where we as a council do have a responsibility, that if who we're asking money for, it's a bit like, you know, every sort of gaming club in the country would like to sponsor football clubs and that sort of stuff, but ethically, you know, that would go against what I hope we would think would be the best for maybe some of our, well, many of our residents, I suppose. So I think we do need to have, rather than sort of going out to get sponsors, I think we do need to know who we're going to and where they might stand on special ethical issues.
So if I can just answer that. So the idea is that sponsorship is only from the town and the surrounding area. It's not about going to, say, 888 betting and basically say, sponsor us. So the idea is that we agree the tiers of what the sponsorship fees should be and what they get for that sponsorship. But you need the momentum to be able to go and have a meeting, sit down, agree with who they're going to sponsor and sign them up there and then. If it's a case that we have to bring it back to a committee or a council meeting, etc., the momentum's lost and that sponsor will most likely not be interested. They don't want to have another meeting to be strong-armed into sponsorship. And so instead of lots of people going multiple times, this is a large amount of money that's then used across all of our events or initiatives, but it's agreed by the committee. So for example, if we went to a big sponsor and they put £10,000 of sponsorship for the year, of course we would expect an application to the committee from Westgate Day or Westgate and Bloom, etc. That money would then be decided by the committee, which is mixed between public and councillors. I know that it's out of the box and a different way of doing things, but we're going to people and we're getting a few £100s. And the difference is if you can go to them and say this covers everything that we do for a year, it's more exciting to a sponsor. And so that means there's more money in.
Sorry, can I...
Mr. Chair, please, before we start discussing terms and conditions, there is a proposal, I proposed it, Councillor Scott seconded it, can we have the vote on the person to chair it, please?
Could I just...
regard this as a kind.
So I think we need
becoming almost a hustle.
I think we need to agree the role first, and then we're happy with this role to then put a committee to it.
Yes, okay.
Sorry, through the chair, the role can be defined and the regulations can be defined, but we've been asked to set up a committee with somebody to lead it. It's been proposed and it's been seconded.
Yeah, I've just got a question.
Well, okay, Councillor Scott.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about setting up a committee in between AGMs and how we set up a committee and how we write the terms of reference to that committee. Or whether it has to be a subcommittee of a committee that we've already got.
That's a good question. My advice always is that you create whatever at your AGM. Technically, I think you'd have to run it until the AGM under, for example, finance or events. So we'd have to have sort of like a working party or a subcommittee of one of your standing committees. Yeah.
Well, then,
I mean,
if
as
it
far
was
as-
going to be a subcommittee, so
Sorry, go on.
if it was going to be a subcommittee, then because it's mainly going to be financing events, then it might be worth being a subcommittee of the tourism committee until the AGM, when then it can be formed its own
Can
committee.
I just respond to that? So I don't believe the money will always go to events. So I think that there will be initiatives for, say for example, new town signage, where we can't get the money from TDC or TDC can't do it, and we can actually do it. In my presentation, I've suggested that we create our own heritage plaques, and so part of the money would go to things like that as well. So I think it's an all-encompassing, so it's probably, if it needed to be a subcommittee, it would be more a subcommittee to finance.
I mean, my own view is that we shouldn't be paralysed between annual meetings. And that if we feel the need to set up this group, then we can do it. What we call it, in my mind, is secondary. If we want to call it a working group of the council, that's fine by me. It doesn't have to be formally a committee. Working groups can be set up for a limited period of time. If we want to do that, to stay within standing orders until the next AGM, I don't think it will change much, and I'm quite happy for that sort of pragmatic approach. And I will take Councillor Ross' proposal immediately after Councillor King's.
Yeah, I think if you do decide to set this committee up, and quite frankly, I'm quite happy with what Councillor McAfee is proposing. If we can get sponsorship in, that'd be a good thing. I think the two things we've got to remember is that any decisions that are being made, even if it's just a delegated office, I think we have to take the decision as a corporate body, I believe. But as far as the committee goes, then to the understanding, the best of my understanding is that all finances that come into the council are managed by the Finance and General Purposes, but there shouldn't be a problem to set up a subcommittee specifically for this, which Councillor Matthews could be designated or delegated as whatever. Perhaps in his own committee. You don't have to have them from, the members don't have to come from the Finance and General Purposes Committee, so it can be a mixture, as long as we bear that in mind, because otherwise if we're starting to, if money comes in, there's got to be accountability as well as being spent.
Well, yes, I mean, we have been clear in the case of other working groups that we have to have strict control over the funds that they are managing to make sure that the council can fulfil all its responsibilities, and that's not intended to be red tape or bureaucratic. It's intended to make sure that we can answer to the public.
Perhaps Mr. White can clarify this. There is quite a significant difference between a working group and a subcommittee.
The working party is running a report with recommendations to its subcommittee. Can I just say that part of the reason, the advice I gave is you'll all be aware that in 2019 there are elections. And of course, why I suggested we went to the AGM is, I don't know, and I'm not asking who's going to stand again. You may have a different view from me in May. You may all be returned. I just don't know, but it's always safer to appoint at an AGM, and particularly the AGM of the first year in 2019.
Can I just quickly respond to two things? So, waiting is all well. I feel especially with the PR and marketing, with the businesses that are closing and the empty stores, etc., the low footfall being reported by South Eastern and stuff, that we need to act now and to be able to start things in the new year to effect change. And I would expect that if we agree this rule and whatever subcommittee, etc., that whoever is on the council, whether it's us or anybody else, carries this on And because it's all going to be documented and set in agreements and stuff like that, it's not like anybody can't pick up a piece of paper and go, this is what's been agreed. But also, everyone's very focusing on sponsorship, which is great, and I love the support, but don't forget this role has also got a large proportion of PR and marketing, because we need to start marketing the town, we need to start PRing what we do, we need to support the local community events, etc., and we need to get the news out there of the community events that we do. So it's more than just sponsorship. There's also the research part. The research part is to basically look at what are other people doing. What could we be doing? Is there something new that's coming up that's going to be sponsored by the government, etc.? Let's be first in rather than 10,000 in. So it's an all-encompassing role that covers 4 very specific things, and sponsorship is part of it.
Well,
Can I just make
Can I
one comment
just-
before you go on?
well, we need to take vote on Councillor Ross' proposal.
Yeah, well, it won't affect, but when I gave the advice, I'm not trying to kill off the idea. I think it's a great idea. All I'm saying is that you can't fetter the rights of a new council that may come into being in May. So that's why we're going to do it. I personally, technically, would prefer it's a working party to one of the committees. But please don't think I'm being negative. And then in May you can set it up as my view.
So can I first of all take a vote on the proposal from Councillor Rolfe for a second?
Councillor Council, I can
All right.
say your name.
McCallum.
Councillor McCallum is the lead person on the, whatever you're going to call it, the body to be set up.
Sorry, Councillor Corwith. Councillor Pott.
Yeah.
I'm proposing that he's the councillor to lead this proposal.
Yes.
I'll second.
And Councillor Matthews got seconded it. All those in favour? Agreed, it's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
I think it flows from this that you need to come back to the council with clear terms of reference and clear proposals for how to put all this together. It seems to me that it involves a huge amount of work. But actually, some of these things are quite different, the sponsorship, the research.
So
I think those are the things that we could talk over.
Exactly, I think
Councillor Collins after the floor.
Yes, I think it's a grand idea, and I think what you said, that it should sit under the full council, because it crosses so many arms, because it is events and tourism, it is finance, and everybody's got to have their bits in. I think it's a subcommittee of the full council, I think would be the ideal place for it to sit.
Well, we're going with, I understand, we're going with a working party
Well, working party.
for the time being, and we will formalise all these arrangements, which are, I think it's understandable that in the early days where ideas might change. And I think we leave it to the new council in May to fix things.
So I'm not going to be at the January meeting, so I'm doing an exam. So my proposal is that I will write up some proposals and pass it on to Jill to discuss in my absence. Obviously I'll communicate with people via email as a group in between times, but rather than delaying it would be good to get some feedback from that meeting.
Yes, Councillor Scott.
Yeah, and on your short-term proposal, the things like hashtag I love Westgate on Sea, and the involvement with the Thanet website, visit Westgate on Sea, and increasing our presence on the Thanet website. Is that something that you want to sort of get on with
Yeah,
now?
so basically the short-term PR marketing, I'll crack on with. We've already started, and we've now got the Visit Westgate, visit thanet.co.uk/Westgate, so we've got our own dedicated page. Within one section of the website as well, they've live linked to that page. but I want to get on with marketing, so that's why I wanted the agreement for this role, because it's stuff that we can do really quickly, and social media, etc. I can also register the URLs for visit westgateonsea.co.uk and .com as well. So there's a lot that I can be getting on with straight away.
Good, thank you. Okay. Well, we look forward to it. I wish you good luck with your now.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for supporting.
No brainer.
Finally, council's reports. Does anybody have anything?
I know you're all sick of hearing my voice, but I need to basically, so today we planted well over 1,000 bulbs. I want to say thank you to Denise for working with me in Lamington Road. Between us we planted 475 bulbs in Lamington Road, and we've done all the planters in the town as well. So I just wanted to recognise Denise's help and thank you very much.
Thank you, because you are on fresh air in this town.
Councillor, sorry, I'll just go around the table with that.
Thank you.
That's all right.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one. A day after our conversations about a tree at Dinnington Road, there's another complaint tonight. I'm sort of satisfied these people. It's still not, it still doesn't look very good. And they've got the power cut off completely before the tree can be aligned and the lights reset and everything. So I think perhaps your intervention might help to see what is going on there at the moment.
Okay.
Which one is that?
I did go and have a look the day that the car had run into the allotment gates. I did an inspection tour up there, and at that point, yes, the lights were on the tree. But you know how Christmas trees, you need to let the branches come out before you put the lights on it. And the lights had simply been wrapped around while the tree was still not fully as it should be, so I'm aware of that issue. I've spoken to the gentleman concerned several times, and he just, I think, needs gentle nudging to do it all. Councillor Crawford?
Oh, I just wanted to say that with the bulb planting, that was a prime example of a direct approach. Council, their initiative and involvement of the residents, which is really good. Also for the fair day, I don't want to tread on anyone's toes, but the chairman of the Residents Association did an awful lot of work for that, Ray, who's here tonight, and also councillors, Councillor McAuliffe and our town clerk put a lot of work in.
Councillor Scott?
And and Councillor Scott as well, who's been neglected recently for all his work he does with the videos, etc.
They're taking you for granted now.
I know. Gosh.
Okay.
Look, Councillor Scott.
Yeah, no, just some acknowledgements first and foremost. So yeah, sort of coming on from the Christmas fair, it was great, yeah, and it was bar the odd one or two hiccups, which won't go too much detail because they're dealt with. Yeah, it was really good from what I understood. Everyone had a great time. Again, many thanks to the tailors who, well, basically were there all day marshalling, so it's very welcome to that. It sort of moves me on further again, and thank you to the councillors who also played their part, especially with our town clerk Jill. The next acknowledgement is on the newsletters. A big thank you to all the councillors who did actually take the time. We basically went out in the rain and the shine to actually deliver these, but also again a massive extended thanks to the tailors again who actually did take their time out to deliver a large portion on the south side of Westgate. So many thanks to them. A thing that I will probably bring up in the January meeting, but it's come to my attention via sort of social media. There's a site called Westgate Matters. A lot of things that have been coming up lately is quite a lot of trouble that's been noted in Westgate due to some youths, teenagers vandalising cars, but something that's probably fallen under the radar that people many have noticed. It happened in November, around about the 20th, that a man was arrested due to actually going into a car of a mother and a 3-year-old daughter and holding her up for ransom for cash. This was actually happened within Westgate, just outside the train station. Luckily, no one's hurt or injured. The guy did walk away empty-handed, but did make the young lady drive down the actual road and drop her off, to which he then left the car. Obviously, she was quite shaken, and then he proceeded to take a handbag from another resident. I mean, it's been caught, it's been done as a case, but it's just making me a bit concerned now that these things are happening in a town such as Westgate, which we would all say is meant to be a nice, beautiful and quiet town. I mean, what I want to sort of do is invite our community ward officers and our PTOs to actually give us a bit of a report on this, and I think it was going to be January that I was going to propose that.
Yeah, if I,
Yes.
what if I'm coming back specifically on that point? We did have a meeting, Clark and myself had a meeting with Inspector Conrad, who's the head of police, I think. Recently, we discussed the role of the PCSO, and I think it's important that people, that the police are alerted as soon as possible, firstly, and that, as you say, we talk to them about whether we can learn lessons from incidents that do occur. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, just coming back from that, I mean, basically, if it were full of room, I'd speak to everyone, but I mean, yeah, it's obviously essential and important to just not assume, lock doors, windows, and just relatively stay safe. But I think the most important thing is a lot of people now assume that it's getting reported or someone else will take it. But I mean, if you do see something suspicious or you do see something that's not right, then do report it. I mean, for the police, it's 101 if you don't feel it's an emergency, 999 if it is. But yeah, I think some of this time it's getting vented on Facebook, and the last thing you want is a vigilante approach. I mean, I want Westgate to be safe. That's something I've always endeavoured to do, set up speed watch and stuff like that, and I want to be the eyes to that. And yeah, just obviously make sure that our community wards and PCOs are there to act on it as and when.
Well, I don't want to turn this into a long discussion. Councillor Scott?
Yeah, just a quick point. Perhaps when we go and see the British Railway in those meetings, perhaps we can look to any reports about the British Transport Police, because I would imagine that some of this happens due to people coming down on a train. They get off in the centre of Westgate and they commit a crime and get straight back onto the train. There is
Can I just answer that? So, from our Southeastern meeting, we agreed that the general manager for the area would come to this meeting once a quarter. So, can we ask Jo when she's back to arrange that first attendance here, and then we can discuss
Yes,
it?
Councillor Cornford.
Sorry, I saw Councillor Roll's hand first.
Thank you. Going back to Councillor Scott's observation report regarding the young lady, it was very, very disturbing. But the person concerned was arrested and he's been held under the Mental Health Act. So that really was one issue.
Well, we hope it's off. Yes?
Again, the numbers that Councillor Matthew Scott mentioned, are they in our town notice board, the 101, the telephone numbers for the non-emergency police, are they in our notice board? Our council notice board in town? Because not everybody knows about these. I mean, I'm sure somebody's, I'm happy to type them up and have them put in there. It's just, it's a visual, you know, it's there.
Yes, pictures.
Sorry, do you want to come back?
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't hope it turned too much into a debate, because I did want to sort of touch more onto it in January with hopefully the invitation of the said people. But yeah, I mean, I believe that one of our PCOs, Susie Temple Ward, I mean, I think another thing is just to maybe put on the notice boards a visual, if they okay it, not just a number, but what these people look like, so people can approach. Because, I mean, sometimes, I mean, I'm guilty for it. A name goes under the radar. I mean, I recognise a face a lot quicker than I recognise a name. And I just think if people know what their, you know, their protection looks like, they can act a lot quicker.
Sure.
Well, like a
Yeah.
wanted poster.
Anything else on this specific point? Firstly, Councillor King.
Not on this one, no.
Okay, well, I was going to move to any other reports.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I think members might be aware now that there is a libraries registration and archives draft strategy going about, and this is the consultation has started on the 21st of November until midnight, Tuesday the 29th of January. Looking through, I've read through it, and it appears now that there are a total of 72 hours being cut per week from Thanet libraries. There is, here in Westgate, there's a proposal to cut 10 hours from our library. And I think it's fair to say that libraries really are the mainstay of most of our communities. Thanet being the second most deprived area in the south east, I find it really unacceptable that 72 hours being cut across the district. They shouldn't be cut anywhere really, but least of all here, where everything is attuned to it. With we've got children living in poverty, kids going to school hungry. We're told that austerity has come to an end, and yet there is a further round of cuts being designated from governments down to the counties. And I hope that every member will, in an individual way, respond to this draft strategy. And I hope that the town council can send in their own combined one, where we will strongly object to any cuts to the hours of our library, or any of the libraries in fact, across the district. Margate are set to lose 13, Ramsgate 16, Broadstairs 18, Cliftonville 12, Westgate 10, Burgington 3. So that's the extent of the cuts. So I do hope that Westgate City Town Council will strongly make its feelings felt in this survey, in this strategy, to feed it in, and hopefully all members will fill it in themselves.
Yes, I must agree with Councillor King on this one. I haven't know somebody that is volunteering to teach the elderly how to use laptops and any sort of technology, phones and that, so they can keep in touch with their family. And they often go into the library to use that, and that can be their only contact with people in their family. They get that they're abroad, and I do think that, particularly as we have got some elderly populations, and to go into the library to be able to access those computers, to be able to do that, and that have that taken away, I think it's valuable.
Yes, I remember when I went to visit St Crispin School, I was impressed by the way in which they use the library, and I suspect the same is true of the other schools in Westgate. It is a vital resource for the very youngest to the very oldest, really. To see it slashed in that way by 25%, I think it's called 38 to 28 hours.
38 to 28, that's for us, that's the proposal for us. But if we could also remember that the libraries are used in other ways other than, the days that you just got books from libraries are long gone, it's books, that's everything else.
Yeah.
And there are even people that can't afford to have their heating on indoors that will go around the library and sit in the library, just keep warm.
Yeah. Well,
just got one point on the library. I mean, I think it's all right, okay, them saying they're going to cut back, but at the same time, people now, for benefit applications, can only make some of them online, and I don't see why organisations, whether it be Thanet or whether it be central government, are expecting people to apply for benefits, which is hopefully going to improve their financial position, but at the same time expecting them to have a full computer network and often a printer. So I've been working with clients on that, so I think that should be included, as Councillor King said, that libraries are not just for issuing books,
Yeah.
they're also for people getting their rights.
Yes, I think we realise that. Councillor Scott.
My point's a bit different because I didn't finish my report, so go through what's relevant to the library at the moment.
I'm sorry.
I didn't finish my report, so answer what's relevant to the situation in the library and then you may come back to me.
Oh, I see, I'm sorry, I didn't realise. Councillor McCarthy.
Just a quick point and suggestion. The consultation doesn't make clear how much money they're expecting to save in Westgate by reducing the hours. So can I suggest that we request what that financial impact is? And once we know that, we can potentially look at alternative ways to try and bridge that funding by looking at other things that we can do in the library. But if we knew what the figure was, then we know what the shortfall is.
Yeah.
And at least we can potentially do something that even if we get told we're losing 10 hours, we can step in and go, well, actually, we've got a grant or we've got funding. Because in some of the research I've done previously, there is individuals that actually leave bequeaths that is to grant money to keep libraries, reading and resources on. But before we can do that, we need to know what the shortfall is.
What you need.
Yeah, I do remember a discussion that we had about the expansion of the library, not about the loss of hours. And I'd like to kind of perhaps try and find out that information where we were thinking of developing the library in partnership with other people to actually start using the second floor. So therefore we'd be actually expanding the hours it was open rather than increasing it.
Sorry, the idea, because this is so important, is that we might focus on this issue at the January meeting and invite someone to come and present it to us. In that way, we could perhaps make a much more informed response to the consultation. Councillor King.
Yeah, if in answer to Councillor Scott's question, yeah, there was a proposal to, we actually was hoping to get some kind of offer from KCC to take the whole building over, and one of the problems was it's disabled access, so there would have needed to have been some kind of alteration made to the building for the upstairs access. And as the building was listed as one of the best examples of 1960s architecture, that was by our then Mr. Dermot at TDC, it was throwing up a few problems, but the fall down was that we didn't have the money, but a company came in that did put up a substantial amount of money. As far as I know, they were going with them, but I haven't seen anything happening over there. I don't know that anyone's using it, so it might be worth checking out whether that proposal went through or whether it hit buffers and it is still standing there empty. Because I've always been of the mind that the best way to protect anything that's an asset to Westgate is for the town council to own it. That way it keeps it away from the asset disposal list, although I know this is Kent County Council's property rather than the Thanet's. On the same principle, you know, it's that library is obviously an asset, and it could be expanded, and it could be the services that come out of there could be improved knowing. But that's all I know about it at the moment. I was only thinking about it today, where they got with it. So maybe, I don't know whether I think it's Sue Fordham at KCC, whether we can drop her an email and say what is the position with that library, because if there's a chance that we can renew interest in it, it would be really worthy course to take up, I think.
I'd still like KCC to do
But I would like to say, Chairman, as much as I appreciate what Councillor Magley was saying, we have to be careful about pandering to the cuts of the county, because basically we shouldn't be absorbing the cuts of the county. This is what's happening with the stroke unit, where we're having to sort of fight our corner for it. We need to. I think really, as a district, we need all the libraries in Thanet some kind of action between us to say that we're not prepared to put up with any cuts to the library hours. As I've said before, there's so much. It's such a deprived area. There are so many things that go through the library, especially for the children.
Yeah.
That we just cannot allow this, because once you start doing that, as I was saying, it's the same principle with the stroke unit. Once the stroke unit goes to Ashford, then the A&E comes under the spotlight. Once the A&E goes and the maternity services go with it, you then get a lump of land out there which is ripe for development, and this is the way it will go.
Yeah.
So it's no good encouraging people to come in and just make up a shortfall. We need to stop them in their tracks.
Yes, I agree. Well, just on conclusion of that, so I'll try and arrange for us to have some more detailed proposals on the table for the January meeting, and we can have a further discussion on the library at that point. So, Councillor Matthew Scott, what else have you?
Yes, I'll keep it brief then. So it's just coming up to this time of year again. It's the Thanet Open Christmas, something that I proudly support and still support for the last few years now. Gives people, homeless, needy, lonely, basically anyone can go in, an opportunity to have a Christmas meal. It covers the Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and also Christmas celebration on the 27th. Obviously anyone's welcome to go down to take advantage of the meal. But more so, everyone is welcome to help volunteer. I find it's great, just gets you out and about. They are always welcome to any form of volunteer donations, monetary, food. It was last year, again, Taylor's, they get their own vaccine. Kindly donated the joint of beef, which was, I understand, greatly accepted. But yeah, it's just giving everyone an opportunity to maybe take part of that if you're not doing anything for Christmas this year. You can go on the website, which is openchristmasthanet.co.uk. I'll also be sharing that on Facebook as well. But yeah, it's just something that I felt this needs to be pushed under, especially with this being the December meeting.
I've just got my £200 fuel allowance, and as usual, I'll give it to the charity that works with the Lions all year round, because I think they need it more than I do.
So they can round up on pension.
Any more councillor reports, please? Yes, councillor.
Mine's not so much a report. I'd just like to thank everybody for their support and working with Get Logics. Each of the committees worked very hard to get it out, and obviously we've come through for a decent budget. And again, it's been important, so I think they're doing the lead streets. I did quite a few streets myself, and it's interesting to have a look at your actual streets and where you're going and know the actual area. It's one way of getting to know your area. And the, and the people that we're actually serving, so that was one of useful.
Okay, thank you. Just to pick up on Councillor King's comments, I did, as requested at the last meeting, prepare a draft letter to send to RMP. I've just sent a draft around this afternoon. If you could let me have any comment by the end of the week, I'll then be able to send it off within the deadline. So thank you very much. It's 16 minutes past 8. We've conducted all our business. Thank you very much.